Okay guys, so welcome to this tutorial. I'm just going to show you how to set up your code so that you can get your photoresistors printing some values. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is map our input-outputs. So we're going to create some global variables to store the pin locations for our photoresistors. So that's going to look like int, we'll call it LDR1, and that's going to be on A0. And LDR2, that's going to be on A1, and LDR3, and it'll be on A2. And just make sure that you've got these pins are the exact pins that they're plugged into, or you won't get some good readings. So now we're going to set up our pin modes. Pin mode, LDR1, and that's going to be an input. Pin mode, LDR2, that's an input. Pin mode, LDR3, that's also an input. And then the next thing we need to do is initialize our serial monitor so that we can get the data in and we can view this on our screen. So that's going to be serial.begin, and the baud rate is 9600, and that'll enable the printing. So now what we want to do is we want to get some readings from each of these inputs, and to do that I'm going to create a couple lines here. We're going to use the analog read to read in the values from the analog input, and so it's going to look like analog read, the sensor name, which is going to be LDR1, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do analog read LDR2, analog read LDR3. And what we want to do is we want to store this inside of a variable so that we can print it out. So I'm just going to call this, let's call this reading 1, and then we'll get reading 2, and then reading 3. So now we've got all of our readings, and what we're going to do is we're going to write a series of print lines and prints to print this out and visually see what's going on. So that's going to be serial.print, and everything inside of the print has to be a string. So what we are going to do is we are going to say, we'll call this left, and then we are going to do a serial.print. We're going to print out the reading number 1, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a space. Print. We'll give ourselves a space, and then we are going to repeat this for our center and for our right. So this is going to be our center. That's going to be reading 2. And then we are going to do our right. And that's going to be reading 3. And then after we print out reading 3, we don't necessarily need to do a space. We just want to give ourselves a new line. So we'll just get rid of that. We'll just call this a print line. And then after it prints out left, center, and right on a single line, it's going to jump to the next line and it's going to print it out again. So we'll do that every second. Print every second. And so that should be a good start for pulling in the data and displaying it on our serial monitor. So I'm just going to check for some errors, go up to the verify, make sure that it compiles. Compiles, it should be good. If not, you'll get a little error done compiling. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my Arduino. I've already got the sensors plugged in. So now I'm going to deploy this to the USB. That looks good. So we'll go ahead and we'll add that to our board. And then to get the serial monitor, you just click on this little magnifying glass and it'll pop up. And I'll bring this window over so that you can see it. And so right now I've got these 3 readings. I've got the left photoresistor sending in a reading, the center and the right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my phone, I'm going to put the flashlight on, And I'm just going to start to move the flashlight over the top so we can get a look at these readings. And so you should start to see some jumps inside of the values. So this is, and it looks like I've got mine backwards just because they're mounted on the robot now and I flipped them. So you can change these numbers around. And so it looks like my right and my left are actually flipped. So you can see that where it's printing out left, I've actually got it on the right side. And when I'm on the left side, it's actually jumping up the right side value. So what I'll do is I'll go into the code, make my adjustments. So you can just exit out of here. And so it's actually flipped. I've got the right one is actually on A0 and the left one is actually on A2. So we'll go ahead and we'll make that little update. And this is what I like to do when I'm troubleshooting too. So if something doesn't look completely right with the first pass, I just go ahead and I print it out. And so now when I go to my right side, it should bump up completely. That's good. And now my left side, you can see that nice jump. And then dead center, you can see dead center. And so this is how you're going to get your readings. And once you know these numbers, we can use this to make decisions. So if you want your robot to follow the light, then whenever your robot detects a high value, let's say over 1,000, then you want to move forward. But if you want your robot to avoid the light, then you're going to want your robot to back up when it detects that higher value. So this is just the first part of the tutorial. Please read on for the remaining solution, and I will see you in the next video.